Unbelievable. Shinyu holds surprise press conference with Dylan Wang's family. Fans are speechless. No one in the entertainment world could have predicted that Shinyu, who had avoided the spotlight for months, would suddenly walk onto a press conference stage unannounced, unpublicized, and unprepared by any major PR team. Yet that was exactly what happened on a gray afternoon that would soon become one of the most explosive days in Chinese entertainment history. The room was filled with murmuring reporters, camera operators adjusting their equipment, and industry insiders scrolling through their phones when, without warning, a door at the back of the hall opened and Shinyu stepped inside, her posture unusually firm, her expression calm but carrying a fire that no one had seen in her before. What made the moment even more shocking was not her presence alone, it was the sight of Dylan Wang's family walking in right behind her, led by his mother, his sister, and his uncle, their expressions tense, solemn, and strangely unified. Hold on tight, C-drama family. The world of your favorite celebrities is unfolding before your eyes, and every moment is more breathtaking than the last. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now, because trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. For a long moment, the room fell into a stunned silence, the type that stretches seconds into what feels like minutes, as every person struggled to process what they were seeing. Shinyu stood at the podium, her hands gripping the edges with a steadiness that betrayed months of pent-up emotion, while the Wang family took their seats behind her in a tight row, their faces carefully composed, revealing everything and nothing at the same time. Lenses focused sharply, microphones lifted higher, and reporters leaned forward with the kind of anticipation that crackles through the air before a storm breaks. It was clear that whatever was about to be said would unravel a story far more complicated, far more painful, and far more explosive than anyone had imagined. Shinyu cleared her throat, and the sound echoed across the hall with haunting clarity. She spoke slowly, her voice even but layered with tension, explaining that rumors had been spiraling out of control, that speculation had grown vicious, and that silence had allowed false narratives to flourish unchecked. She said that today was not about rekindling past relationships, not about fueling scandals, but about revealing truths that had been buried under months of misunderstandings. Her words were measured, but behind them was the unmistakable tremor of someone who had been holding her breath for far too long. The reporters shifted uncomfortably, knowing they were witnessing something unprecedented, an actress voluntarily stepping into the public eye to confront the darkest chapter of her life, not alone, but with the family of the man the world believed had left her behind. Dylan Wang's mother leaned toward her microphone, her eyes glassy yet determined. She addressed the crowd with a tone that blended remorse and authority, revealing that the breakup between Dylan and Shinyu had not unfolded the way tabloids had claimed. She said that the family had made mistakes, that pressure, expectations, and misunderstandings had contributed to a narrative that neither of them had truly wanted. She admitted, with heartbreaking honesty, that certain decisions made to protect Dylan's image had unintentionally wounded Shinyu, isolating her during a time when she needed support rather than scrutiny. The room was silent, stunned into stillness. Then, in a moment no one expected, Shinyu stepped aside and Dylan's sister took the podium, her voice trembling as she spoke about how guilt had built up in their household, how regrets had festered behind closed doors, and how the family had finally come together to urge Shinyu to speak her truth publicly because hiding in the shadows had inflicted more damage than candor ever could. She admitted that blame had been misplaced, that assumptions had been made, and that Shinyu had been unfairly portrayed as the cause of a breakup that had roots far deeper than the public ever knew. The camera zoomed closer, capturing every flicker of emotion on Shinyu's face, the tightness around her mouth, the soft strain in her eyes, the slight quivering of her fingers. She looked fragile yet unbreakable, tired yet resolved, hurt yet determined to heal. The truth, once concealed behind management strategies and false narratives, was now spilling into the room like light flooding into a long-sealed chamber. Shinyu finally leaned into the microphone again, her voice softer now but more honest than it had ever been. She explained that she had remained silent not because she had nothing to say, but because she had hoped time would ease the tension, because she believed protecting Dylan was more important than protecting herself, because she had underestimated how quickly silence could turn into ammunition for speculation. She shared how the breakup had been far more mutual than the public assumed, that both had struggled under the weight of schedules, expectations, and pressures neither had been equipped to handle at the time. But it was her final revelation that shook the room to its core. She revealed that the reason she had decided to speak now, the reason she had asked Dylan's family to stand beside her, was because she had recently discovered how deeply the false rumors had affected Dylan himself, how he had carried guilt and regret silently, how he had tried to protect her despite the distance between them, and how the truth deserved to be heard, cleanly, clearly, and without distortion, before their story was permanently twisted beyond recognition. The hall erupted in whispers, questions, disbelief. But Shinyu was not finished. She revealed that her decision to call the press conference had not come from anger, nor from a desire to reopen wounds, but from a need for closure, transparency, and dignity. She spoke about moving forward, not backward, about healing relationships rather than reigniting old ones, about honoring the past without being chained to it. And at that moment, Dylan's mother stood, placed a gentle hand on Shinyu's shoulder, and said the words that would replay across social media for days: "We owe her the truth, and the world deserves it too." The room was silent once more, but this silence was different, heavier, fuller, almost reverent. Reporters didn't know what to ask first. Cameras kept rolling, capturing a moment so emotionally raw that it felt more like a scene from a film than real life. Yet it was real, undeniably, painfully real. A truth that had been buried under rumors finally emerged, and in doing so, reshaped everything the public thought they knew. And the world waited, breath held, eyes wide, to see what would happen next. No one in the entertainment world expected the press conference to unfold the way it did, and yet the moment Shinyu stepped onto that stage, standing beside members of Dylan Wang's family, the atmosphere in the room shifted so dramatically that even veteran reporters who had spent decades chasing scandals found themselves frozen, unable to process what they were seeing. It was not the setting that shocked them, nor the solemn expressions worn by everyone on stage, but the sheer weight of the unanswered question that hung heavily in the air: what had driven Shinyu, quiet, private, known for her gentle nature and avoidance of drama, to stand before the nation with the very people connected to a man she had once called her closest friend, her rumored partner, her almost something? Flashbulbs burst in rapid succession, the sound of shutters slicing through the stillness like 1,000 tiny knives. Every camera was locked on her face, every microphone angled upward to catch even the slightest tremor in her voice. Fans watching from home leaned forward toward their screens, hearts pounding with anticipation, confusion, and a growing sense that whatever truth would be revealed today would rewrite everything they thought they knew about Dylan Wang, Shinyu, and the complicated bond the world had long speculated over. Shinyu's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the microphone, and though she attempted to steady herself, the tension in her shoulders betrayed the emotional storm brewing beneath her calm expression. Behind her, Dylan's mother and father exchanged a quiet glance, one filled with worry, resignation, and something else the cameras couldn't fully capture, a grief that ran deeper than any tabloid rumor ever dared to explore. When she finally spoke, her voice came out soft but unwavering, the kind of voice that carried truth even before the words were fully formed. She began not with accusations, nor with dramatic claims, but with a confession that stunned the room. She explained that she had been carrying a burden alone for far too long, a burden no one had noticed, a burden that had grown heavier with each passing month until silence was no longer possible. As she spoke, Dylan's father lowered his head, as though bracing for an impact he had seen coming yet hoped would never arrive. Shinyu revealed that the fallout between her and Dylan had not been sudden, nor explosive, nor rooted in petty misunderstandings the internet had manufactured for entertainment. Instead, it had been gradual, quiet, almost invisible, a series of small fractures, unspoken fears, and misaligned expectations that accumulated until the relationship could no longer sustain its own weight. She admitted that she had made mistakes, that she had struggled with her own insecurities, that fame had changed the dynamic between them in ways neither could control. But then she said something that made the entire room gasp, something that caused reporters to lower their cameras for a brief second in disbelief. She revealed that the final fracture had not been between her and Dylan at all. It had been between her and herself. She described the relentless pressure to appear perfect, the constant scrutiny placed on her every expression, every gesture, every rumor, and how she had slowly begun withdrawing from everyone, including the one person who had once understood her better than anyone else. She admitted that she had become fearful, anxious, unreachable, and that her silence, not Dylan's actions, had been the true catalyst for their separation. As she spoke, Dylan's mother reached out, gently placing a hand on Shinyu's shoulder, a gesture that stunned the reporters and shifted the entire narrative in a single breath. The press room seemed to tilt, the emotional gravity pulling everyone inward as Shinyu continued. She explained that she had come today not to reopen old wounds, but to close them properly, with honesty and dignity, alongside the very family who had once treated her as their own. She wanted the world to know that there was no betrayal, no secret affair, no dramatic feud. There was only misunderstanding, emotional exhaustion, and two young people trying to navigate a world that had lifted them too high and judged them too harshly. Then came the moment that set the internet on fire.